All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriots Training Campcast. I'm Mike Dussault, joined by Evan Lazar and Paul Perillo, and we just got off the field, guys, from another padded practice, our second one in a row. A little bit longer session. It felt kind of, to me, Paul, like we're really just trying to hit those dog days of summer, get the reps in. Drake Maye took a lot of reps today, and again, it felt like an okay day for the offense. I don't want to understate it or overstate it, but okay, they're showing some progress.
Uneven, I would say, but yeah, I do think there's some progress being made. You're seeing, I think, with the pads on, the pass protection has been a little bit better, and that's to be expected. You should be able to block a little bit better when you're actually allowed, dare I say, to block. And I think it has been. And I think there were some signs of production at times. Did a little red zone work today. Mike, you're right. There was sort of longer periods, I thought, of 11 on 11, and there was one point where Drake Maye doubled up. So, yeah, I thought they got some good work in.
Yeah, everyone talked about Drake Maye. A little bit of a down day yesterday. What did you see from him today?
Well, I thought he got the ball out a little bit faster today than what we saw yesterday. But in general, we talked a lot about this on Unfiltered also. It just feels like processing-wise, he's maybe still a beat behind. And when you watch a quarterback like Jacoby Brissett, who's not only been in the league for a while, but also played in this offense before in 2022, you do start to see the difference a little bit of not necessarily the talent or the physical tools, but just when it's run on time and it's run on rhythm, what it looks like with Jacoby Brissett versus what it looks like with a guy like Drake Maye who's still trying to learn the system. So to me, a lot of the things, and we could probably dissect a million things that Drake Maye could or couldn't do better, but to me right now the number one thing is to get him mentally processing the game a little bit faster and seeing things a little bit quicker, and then you'll won't see all those camp reports of, well, Drake Maye was 5 for 11 or 3 for 11 today and 11 on 11s if he starts to be a little bit more on time.
Now, Paul, there's another quarterback too, Joe Milton. I thought he was okay today. I mean,
I thought he was really good today.
He's getting some reps. What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, he took Zappe took some reps early in the third time around, and then it was later. And Milton, I thought he got in a little bit of a rhythm. I thought really nice slant to Juju Smith-Schuster for a touchdown. There was some enthusiasm. I mean, he's one of those guys that he's got kind of the infectious enthusiasm. I'm not telling you it means anything beyond that he threw the ball pretty well today, but I thought he was dealing.
Yeah. The one thing I'd say about Milton, he was in college for 6 years, and he's, 23, 24 years old. Yeah. And even with him to Drake, you can sort of tell the difference between a guy that was really experienced and played a ton of college football versus a guy that really was only in college football for 3 true years. And even the ball tends to come out a little bit more on time with Milton. So that's not to say that Milton's ahead of Drake or is better or anything like that, but you see the experience of the two guys. And I feel like with Milton, that those 6 years that he spent in college, you kind of see that a little bit with him, a little bit more mature.
Yeah, so a little bit of housekeeping stuff, guys. We had, Jabril Peppers out of practice. We did see him kind of walk on field later. Marty Mapp, who continues to be an observer as well. Christian Barmore, of course, not expecting to see him. Matthew Judon, a little bit of display yesterday from him. He was not out there at all today. Davon Godchaux continues to practice, though, and, just for me, the big point is it's kind of a tough blow over the course of the last 24 hours to feel like, you got a little bit more drama with Judon going. We're hopeful that Godchaux is going to get done, but we don't know when we're ever going to see Barmore again out here. Now we have Peppers out. Just not a great 24 hours for the team, especially on the defensive side of the ball with how that's all going with their personnel.
Yeah, the Judon thing, I think, sort of is front and center for me. I mean, it wasn't a good look yesterday, I thought, the way he sort of, in front of the media, in front of the public, was just sort of openly saying, I'm not going to practice, and what are you going to do about it? And then I thought he kind of tried to back Gerard Mayo into a corner. I don't think it's a coincidence that we didn't see him today. I would just add also David Andrews didn't practice for the second straight day, which put Nick Leverett at center. So that's unfortunate because that offensive line had started to develop a little cohesion with the same tackles with Chooks and the rookie Caden Wallace on the left side, Okorafor on the right, but no David Andrews.
Yeah, I think with the Judon thing, to me, we've been talking about this, Mike, a ton today. It just puts into perspective the pass rush and the lack of, just to make it about football for a second, the lack of juice that they have a little bit right now in the pass rush without Judon and Christian Barmore out there is a teeny bit concerning. I don't want to be alarmist about it, but I charted the one-on-ones between the O-line and the D-line, and I had 9 straight wins for the offensive line. And this is an offensive line that all offseason we've been telling you guys isn't very good on paper. And some people ranked it, I think, 31st, 32nd in the league on paper in terms of the talent that they have. And the guys that they have in camp right now, Uche, Jennings, Aquale, Wise, Keon White, are having a tough time getting off blocks in the one-on-one pass rush drills. And that just puts in perspective how important those two guys are for this team.
Yeah. So we're covering the big pieces here. We talked about Drake Maye. We talked about the quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. We talked about the offensive line, some of the concerns on defense. The other big thing for this team are the receivers. And it's just a big group, and we've kind of been talking about how there's been such a rotation. I mean, just everybody's kind of playing with everybody. Some days, some guys are making plays. Other days are not. I want to ask both of you guys, like, who's one guy to you that's just kind of stood out in terms of tight ends, wide receivers, just one guy that's caught your eyes over the last couple of days as pads have come on? And Paul, you can say nobody if you
Well, you know why? I think that I'm going to say the opposite of nobody. I'm going to say different days I've seen different guys. Like I thought on Monday, Tyquan Thornton kind of stood out to me. I think earlier when there was no pads on, Rager was making some plays. I think the two rookies have had days where I thought that Polk was a little bit better today than I've seen him, whereas Baker wasn't as good as I've seen him in other days. So I wouldn't say nobody. I would say nobody consistently every day.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. I feel a lot of the same things. I think we're in lockstep on the receivers. The one guy I would just kind of highlight, though, I am excited about Javon Baker a little bit, just because of the way he moves and the type of athlete that he is. It might not be consistent yet, day in and day out and rep in and rep out, and that's sort of how I thought he would be in his NFL career. Looking at some of the comps, like one guy that stuck out to me that also happens to be UCF guy is Gabe Davis, who will have a game where he has 150 yards and then the next week he's not even on the field, it feels like. And I kind of feel the same way about Javon Baker in these practices, but when he is explosive and he's on like he was yesterday at times, you notice him that he moves a little bit differently. And Pop Douglas moves differently too, but he's smaller. Javon Baker moves differently at 6'1", 195, 200 pounds. So he's got some size and he's got some explosiveness, and that's a good quality to have. So I'm excited about him, not trying to get too ahead of ourselves, but having those two guys flash, Polk and Baker as much as they have is not necessarily things that we've seen out of rookie receivers in a Patriots training camp right away. Certainly not with N'Keal Harry, as we were all here for that. And then even with Tyquan, it was kind of like a play here, a play there, whereas those two guys feel like they're involved and they're getting targeted every single day.
Yeah. And I will say today was the first time we saw Douglas in a competitive rep. He did some 7-on-7s, caught a pass in that drill. So he wore a red non-contact jersey today. Obviously getting closer.
Yeah, he's another one that just jumps off the field. He's got some quickness, and certainly it's the skill that the Patriots offense needs. But the team will be off on Wednesday. We're through 6 practices here. We think we got 7 left with a joint practice, so we're about at the halfway point. Wednesday off day, and then we're anticipating 3 more action-packed practices, probably a couple with pads as well. So be sure to stay tuned here at Patriots.com. We've got you covered with the Patriots Training Campcast.